service structure.
In case you're confused, this is from like a good 2 hours earlier.
Entered, and there you can see on your screen as they're coming through the crew access arm, entering the white room right before they are able to ingress into the vehicle there. Again, this was from earlier.
Yeah, this all from earlier, and as we said, that white room, the last place on planet Earth they're standing before they climb into Dragon for the ride uphill. SpaceX carrying over a tradition that NASA had where that was traditionally the room.
Constantly spamming
Gemini,
the
Apollo,
Discord
and
link
the space
if you guys
shuttle,
want to come
that
and join
place.
me.
About 30 minutes ago, we're back with some live video here. The team was able to close Dragon's hatch with Bob and Doug safe inside. So we are under an hour ago. Things are going to pick up as we get close to that go, no go to begin propellant loading and then arming the launch escape system.
The crew pull for readiness was completed at T-minus 60 minutes, and the Dragon pull
Basically
for
double
prop
streaming
load is coming up
both
here,
here
in
on
30
Facebook,
seconds at
Twitch,
T-minus
YouTube,
55 minutes.
on my Discord
Following
as
that will
well.
be T-minus 45 minutes will be the internal mission control Hawthorne pull, and then the launch director's pull for propellant loading. When we get to about T-minus 40 minutes, the crew access arm will retract, and Bob and Doug will get the call to close their visors and arm the launch escape system. This is the automated system in place that can fire the 8 Super Draco thrusters on Dragon to quickly separate the crew from the rocket, either on the pad or during the flight on the ride uphill.
Yeah,
And once we
and once
reach T-minus 35
that
minutes,
happens,
propellant loading for
they'll
the Falcon 9
immediately
will
begin the fueling
We
process.
got there on Wednesday. We got all the way down to about 17 minutes before launch before we had to cancel because of weather. But we're optimistic right now. Conditions have been improving, and so we're looking to press ahead once again into loading fuel onto that Falcon 9 rocket. Throughout the countdown, we've been getting some incredible views of the astronauts inside Dragon, just making all of their final preparations, some close-up views of their suits and on the displays as they just are strapped in and ready for launch. The teams often describe the suits as an extension of that Dragon spacecraft. You can always think of it as a mini spacecraft inside of a spacecraft. Got all of the life support, everything that they need, just like the capsule itself.
Countdown 1 technical poll is complete. No constraints to proceed into launch escape system arming and propellant load.
And there's that call out that the crew is ready. They are ready to load prop onto Dragon, so we are pushing forward towards T0. And while those suits do look great, they are also engineered to connect directly into Dragon's seats to provide communications, cooling, and the ability to pressurize if necessary.
They're going to be sitting there for like 19
Right,
hours.
well, we did get the call out that the technical teams on the ground are ready.
Who knows?
For
I mean, we can't hear the audio
arming and
in
propellant
there.
loading.
The only time
Again,
we'll ever
things
hear
starting
the
to
audio
pick
from the
up, things
capsule
really
is
starting to
yeah,
feel real. Let's jump down real quick to the team at Kennedy. See if you guys are just as excited. I can't sit still right now. It's starting to feel real.
Yeah, it's hard to sit still in here, right, Leland?
That rocket fuel going through my veins still.
I know. It's so awesome when we see them sitting there in their suits. We're less than an hour away now. So far, things look like we might make it. We might make it.
They don't load the rockets until after the astronauts.
I want to ask you what it was like the first
they did
time
the shuttle.
You put
you
on
don't
a
load
space
any
suit
of your
when
rockets
you knew you were
until
going to space.
Oh, that was February of 2008. We were in the ONC building getting the pumpkin suits on. A little bit different than the SpaceX SpaceX suits.
They were part of the shuttle.
It was kind of surreal.
It's also part of.
He's
and
part
to
of
think
that.
he's like
It took 10 years of training.
I think he's from the class
to
of
fly in
99.
space. It took me 10 years from when I got in the Corps in 1998 to flying in February of 2008. So it was a long road to get there, but it was so worth it and so sweet. And learning how to use the green apple, the connections for oxygen, for cooling,
basically just have
much different than these suits that we have for the SpaceX.
I mean,
so
no one else has successfully built a rocket.
To go through that whole series of things that you have to do to make sure you're safe in the suit. But we've evolved, we're ready, and they look so.
Yo, dude, is it cool if I talk?
In their suits in the vehicle. They're
hey, what's up?
and getting ready to fly.
And there's so
talk to me. What's going on here?
You got another message.
Where are we in the launch sequence?
Yeah,
we're at
T-minus
50.
So Sunny,
1 minute.
She's
45 will arm the
She was one of the original cadre. She was one of the original four who trained with Bob and Doug from the beginning of the commercial program.
So right now they're doing system checks.
Look at her there. What is she wearing?
She is. Hey,
all that crap.
So the fuel's not in the rocket yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there? They don't load until right before they go.
Yeah. This is what's called an instantaneous launch.
She can mix it up, but yeah, Sunny's awesome. She's training to fly on the Boeing
It's a combination of things. It's the fuel
in the not too
types
distant future.
and
So really glad she's watching
the helium
and
they
showing some
use
love.
to pressurize the tanks
So
as it
thanks a lot, Sunny, for sending that note.
So
and again, we're looking at a live view of the Crew Dragon on top of a Falcon 9 rocket.
Okay, so this capsule thing at the tip here is that the only thing that's going coming out and coming back?
Yeah, this thing goes all the way up, comes all the way back.
Yeah, and the rest of this just falls off and hopefully doesn't land on anything.
This lands itself,
and I think we're just a couple minutes away from.
Oh yeah, that's the new part, right? That's like the part that
just fuck offs. You know what I mean? It just goes
okay.
Guys, the weather looks.
I wonder whose job it is to just track that one thing and then go to it.
Yeah,
that's got to be a job, right?
It's NASA's, yeah. And then you gotta try to get as every part you can.
In international, I took a little bit of space law because there are international treaties that govern a lot of this stuff. And my favorite ones is hey, your satellite landed on our school, so you got to pay for it. Like that's a real lawsuit.
Yeah. We do these and they do the math to try and make sure everything falls into the ocean, but I mean at the end of the day you can only do so much math. Take over the rest, you know.
Yeah, or I mean, we have hypotheticals that we had to work through, like what if two rovers crash into each other on the moon, and they're from different countries? How do you resolve that, and who owes what to who? Like that was like a straight up like a third of the freaking the exam.
The launch director
whose driving laws do you follow? Do you follow like the U.S.'s or China's laws when it comes to right of way and
follow South Korea's law. If you have the higher bumper, then you're never at fault.
Dragon copy, go weather.
All right, here's the weather report. This is important.
And there you heard that call out. So far, we have good weather. We are go for launch today. This is getting really exciting. I don't know about you, Dan, but it's moving pretty fast right now.
Okay, cool.
We've been waiting.
So it's like a boat that's going to try to catch the disposable part, right?
Yeah, the idea. It's called. This is how much I love you.
They were expecting it to clear up within 10
They like
minutes,
name things so weird. I love it.
So we are currently go on weather.
Yes. And
look at the sky. That's
pretty incredible to be so
It's crazy because they had
launch,
thunderstorms earlier today. So
up to this point has been pretty incredible as well.
Florida's wild, man. Like Florida is a crazy place.
Well, I mean, you're in Southern California and Hawaii are the two biomes. Other places have crazy weather.
I've lived in Georgia. I know exactly how the South is, and I've lived in Colorado. Colorado has the craziest fucking weather in existence.
Wasn't it this year or last year where they had it was snowing and then it was 82 or something the next day?
In the same day, that shit's common. I remember when I was in high school, we would have literally we had a snow day, and by the end of that snow day, it was hailing, and then it started raining, and then it was 76, and then I was like, what?
It's going to be a go-no-go coming up really soon. So let's go over to our man John I for the latest. John.
So who are these people that they put on who's on the panel and stuff?
Two of them I have no idea who they are. The third one is an actual decorated astronaut who is part of the shuttle program, went to the ISS twice.
Now, the launch director is currently checking with Dragon mission director and NASA launch manager for their readiness.
And
it goes right now.
Sounds like everybody is good there. The launch director will then ask the team.
So the idea, the reason this thing's revolutionary is because it's reusable, right?
SpaceX launch team will be
at least the capsule and the bottom stage are on paper 100% reusable.
From the launch director at about
I'm pretty sure that the second stage is as well, but I'm not. They don't talk about the second stage as much, and quite frankly, I didn't do very thorough research on the second stage. But that might actually be relatively reusable as well.
I mean, honestly, from the outside, it just kind of visibly looks flimsier.
Yeah. The reason why, like, it's such a smaller rocket, but it has much more efficient engines, and the fuel type they use is different from any other fuel type we've used in a while. I mean, the basic chemistry is the same, but the mix is some magical mix. That I'm not a chemist, so I'm not going to get into the specifics of the fuel. That's magic beyond me.
So. I mean, you could say more efficient fuel, and I think, future fuel.
It's really what it is.
Okay. So what type of advantages do you have from trying to launch a smaller type of rocket as opposed to like a bigger one?
Well, first off, this is only going to ISS, which is like 250, right? So that is literally like 4% the distance to the moon. So that's also why it looks kind of small. It's only launching, 4 people. Today it's only launched 2 because it's a test flight. So it's not really designed to carry large cargo. Like the space shuttle was designed to carry space station parts. So it had to be big because it was lifting 75 tons of bullshit into the space, right?
Okay.
So when you're only taking 4 people into space, you don't need, a lot. So you can make a smaller rocket just because your payload is smaller, right?
Yeah.
So smaller rocket, less fuel. So the docking is now pulling away.
Ooh.
Arming the escape sequence. And then they're going to start filling it. The mission control guy is talking about the fire escape plan. So if there's a fire, what they're all going to do.
Is that something that like the rockets we think of that went to the moon had? I figured that if something went wrong, they would just kind of hope it didn't.
Yeah. Well, it is something that you do on everything, flights. It's just like something. It's like a tradition coming from airplanes, right? Like every single flight, no matter what it is, you always do a fire safety briefing, always, and then you do a takeoff briefing, always. It doesn't matter if you're by yourself, if you are flying a bicycle with wings, you always do a fire and launch like safety briefing. Even if everyone already knows exactly what they're doing, you just do it again. Because
getting configured, set up.
I mean, also, it seems like out of all the habits, that seems like a good one to have.
Yeah. To continuously remind each other what to do when you catch on fire.
Yeah, it also keeps you serious, right?
I can't take a deep breath quite yet. We're going to have to watch the weather all the way down to
continuously remind yourself that at any point in time, this rocket will just blow up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just carrying literally something that's made to explode as readily as possible.
Now that we're inside an hour, we're seeing large numbers of folks.
So the commentator over here, he was talking about the weather. Like they're still worried about it, even within 43 minutes. When you don't think they have like enough tracking and enough technology to know within 30 minutes if something's coming?
They're just hopeful that the electricity in the air dissipates to a certain level to allow for a launch.
Oh shit! How do they measure? How do they measure that?
Barometers and like all around this Florida Space Launch Center, there's a bunch of weather balloons that are constantly like measuring the this is the wrong word. The electricity levels in the air.
Yeah.
What's it called? I literally woke up
40 minutes
ago. So yeah, the
charge. If I had to guess, but I mean, again, that's a lawyer pretending to be a scientist.
And we are
words are always hard for me. But that's what canceled the launch last week was how much how much the air was charged. So
as you just heard,
they're still worried about that, especially since there were thunderstorms in the area earlier.
I mean, when you say that there's lightning in the air, I naturally assume that's bad for rockets, but what in particular about it is so dangerous?
Oh, I mean, everything. Like, a lightning strike not only could disrupt the flight systems, the computer systems, it could also discharge around the body and cause it a giant explosion.
And obviously we just heard on the comms, Bob and Doug
it could get lightly, it could charge up just by traveling through the air. Static electricity will just cling onto the pod, and even if it doesn't accumulate enough of a charge to blow it up in the air or mess with any of the computer systems, if it docks with extra electricity charged on it, it could blow up the space station when it docks, because those the charge won't really go anywhere because there's no medium in space for it to dissipate onto. So there's a lot of shit that you don't want a statically charged rocket.
Yeah, so just by definition.
Yeah.
SpaceX has designed
it's like carrying a little bomb with you.
Falcon 9 to be the safest launch system ever flown. So we brought back Nick Picone, SpaceX's Nick Picone, to talk more about this again. Thanks for coming back.
I love all the commentary is hands. They're constantly moving their hands so
happy to
much.
Be here. Still monitoring the launch here. With our
it's an important part of communication when you're not in the room, right?
Our mission manager for our inflatable.
Because you can't. Body language is hard on camera.
And now works on the Starlink team. Nick, on Wednesday you
these are not
the
trained
escape system.
commentators.
Could you just give us a brief summary today for
their hands are distracting. That's why I'm like, come on.
Sure.
So this guy knows what he's doing. He uses his hands to demonstrate points.
To keep Bob and Doug safe.
Yeah, well, I mean, also I'd be fucking nervous as hell if I was an engineer who they just stuck on camera. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. If that happens, Dragon will use its 8 Super Draco engines to push the capsule off and away to a safe distance away from this Falcon. This capability is absolutely critical. It's what keeps the crew safe. And we're now active and armed on the pad with it.
There's a joke to be made about those AirPods right now.
You mentioned the launch system
abort the mission, abort the mission. Oh god, he can't hear us, he's got AirPods.
I believe it goes into the ocean. What happens after it lands safely in the ocean?
Correct. So for most of our failure modes,
this guy is like total Silicon Valley bro with the flannel shirt and the AirPods in permanently. This guy is kind of a caricature. He's in an open office, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
It could be splashing down right off the coast of Cape Canaveral.
I bet you one of those is like a freaking map of like the Death Star, and one of them is like Mordor or something. Like if you really zoomed in, you know.
The Space Force's 45th Space Wing, Task Force 45, has pararescue teams.
Oh, that's right. It now belongs to the Space Force to rescue the astronauts. I keep forgetting it's not a joke that there really is a Space Force. I mean, it's just the Air Force, but come on.
What other options
but I mean,
this dude said he said the Space Force's 285th wing is in charge.
We have several pre-planned return trajectories.
Dude, here's the thing. One day they will be tested, and then we will no longer laugh at the Space Force.
I mean, they are pretty important in terms of like cybersecurity and shit. Like, I get it.
This operation is something we're doing.
We couldn't leave it to the Air Force to shoot down all of China's satellites.
We do that because
we had to make a specific branch.
Oh, you know what? How many F-15s does the Space Force actually get? Because those are the jets we use to launch the satellite missile.
And our space operations team can redirect this.
I don't know, dude. Shit, we have enough to pawn them off on Saudi Arabia. I think we have enough.
And with the vehicle, in almost any scenario, it sounds like the vehicle will land into the ocean, and that's
okay. They are trying to get the F. I was right. They are trying to get the F-15X, but they're not going to tell me numbers right now, so they don't actually have
rescue the vehicle and the astronauts on board. How do you prepare for?
I mean, I think if you ask a senator what Space Force is, they probably giggle first, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And. Despite the current times, the executive must ask the legislative for money.
Recovery missions, we've got a great team of recovery operators here who have a lot of offshore experience with our spacecraft.
We're going to talk about the recovery guys for a bit, huh?
We took that experience, we built up.
I guess they just want to put everyone at ease, but by talking about safety for too long, they give everyone unease.
Design of that ship
and
the operations. These new ships have.
I think if I was running this thing, I would just have like a list of cool shit that they were doing that has never been done before, and then just like make it a big list of that. Be like, because they got to be doing so much science, right?
No, it's all it is like proving that a private corporation can build a rocket and send people to space. That's literally all they're doing right now. Is just like, here's our cheap, reusable rocket to space. We no longer have to depend on Russia to get to space.
But what I'm saying is like they gotta put out. I mean, you can put so much scientific equipment in an iPhone and just put it on the ship and never touch it, and it would still have great data.
I mean, the telemetry data from this launch will be super duper important to a lot of people that know how to read it. But,
thank you, Nick, for joining us again.
We don't know that. Like, that shit's beyond us.
And I mean, and also
another really cool thing. This is the first all-glass cockpit for any spaceship. Like, that's kind of exciting. I mean, look at this future-ass spaceship that they're in.
So, as you just
right now, the only other way to get to the ISS is with the Soyuz, and that thing's from the fucking 80s, like ancient 80s. I mean, it's the fifth edition of that certain capsule, right? It's the Soyuz like XDY or something like that. But it's still using like steam gauges and like really crappy CRTs. Like they're not CRTs, they're actually vacuum tubes, but that's besides the point.
Prop load for Dragon.
Well, I mean, there's the fact that when you turn a knob, it should always turn is kind of useful, right? As opposed to a screen where it's like it's fucking with me and I don't know why.
We're in the second decade of all glass cockpits. Like all glass cockpits are just as reliable and safe as steam gauges.
Yeah, I imagine.
You don't need that T-tab or a third thing to ignite because.
It's nice that someone gets a shot at it from scratch. You know, they started all the way from the beginning and they started over. That's usually a good way to come up with new ideas.
A majority of our rocket designers are all dead. Like
Dragon has
everyone who worked on the original rockets are gone, so they really had to follow they had to like reverse engineer blueprints, and that's I mean I talked about it a lot. The fucking parachutes, man, on these things. The guy who designed the Apollo parachute's gone. Like he's not around to tell us how he figured it out. So all we have are these blueprints, and we have to sit around. And a lot of times the reason it took a really long time for the crew, the Dragon crew, to really be like for this day to happen was because we couldn't get the parachute and escape system to work properly. It took them forever.
Now, you probably remember. Let's see.
Hey man, people lived under the aqueducts that once flowed with water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just another rocket.
It's usually progress, but sometimes it's backwards.
The vehicle off.
Yeah.
In the case of Dragon, our escape system is integrated into the vehicle,
which makes it cheaper. She's going to talk about the integrated escape system. It does actually make it cheaper.
One less thing you have to.
So you don't have to reuse it every time or something.
Yeah, because the Dragon has its own escape system built into the pod. Because usually, like you've seen the Saturn, right? Like it has that giant mini rocket on top of it that dragged it away. But no matter what, you always had to jettison that fucking rocket off the top of the rocket. So you were always wasting. Like that was always just a giant piece of waste.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks for
one less piece of waste.
That because I think it's
that used to be what I don't know the exact stage, but they called like a stage 2 rocket, right?
That's the whole point.
It was the escape system. It was the escape system, and then like they would always. It's the oh shit button, right?
And separate
right when you get to
shoot up into the
a little after,
splash down safely in the Atlantic
a little
Ocean
after like
Dragon's parachute, and
you put it right at the edge of the Kerman line is when you release that, and then. Because by that time you're on your last stage and you're using your service capsule to fly around.
Ready to go on standby in an instant if they need it. And so we want to
go. And this one's
update from John.
So
John?
Will this design ever be able to be like be place something into orbit and then come back, or is it really just up and down?
Yeah. Well, so the other version of the Dragon Cargo, which is what we kind of use to launch cargo up. That one you could essentially put in, and they have put CubeSats into it and then release the CubeSats from there. So you could use the other rocket. This one is just a ferry. This is literally just a space ferry.
Okay. So and that means there's no life support on this thing, right?
I mean, yeah, there is. It's oxygenated and it is pressurized.
Falcon 9 did begin propellant load.
I don't know how long you can comfortably live in there.
On the Falcon 9,
but
this isn't going to be like sending someone into space to go study and then come back, right?
This is 100% just to get to ISS and whatever gate we get, like whatever space hotel we start building. Because I mean that's on the horizon. Someone is dragging the funds together to build a space hotel. It's happening.
Well, I mean the current treaties we have aren't up to snuff to handle that, so we'll have to politically figure it out how we do that too.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of questions about people in space.
Yeah.
You might just see the green flare.
Yeah, that's why you just demolish it, put nukes up there, problem solved.
Also, how do you tax the space hotel?
You don't. It doesn't belong to anybody. So what you do is you build the space hotel and then you send your money to the space hotel.
Gotcha. Okay.
Listen, space hotels are the best. Do you remember Sealand?
I know Sea Lab. Usually the 2020
one variety. So there is a quote unquote country called Sealand, right?
Oh, is that the one that sells titles?
Yeah.
Does it sustain itself? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 60 dudes in a castle or something.
Yeah, it's a sea fort from World War II. The British built a bunch of seaports to defend the channel, right? And so it's a sea fortress, right? It's an oil platform made out of concrete, basically. And so these guys it's abandoned, so they just took it over, right? It's technically in international. It's technically in British's working territory, right? Like that 200-mile.
Easy.
Industrial. Yeah.
I holy shit! I can't believe my classes are coming up. I took that class.
Yeah. Like so.
Sounds that we had recorded on board.
Okay, so
basically what they did is they just took it over, made it their own country. And what it is right now is a black site for servers. So you can just put they host servers for people who don't want to follow any country's laws. And I think those servers finally closed like 2 years ago or something like that. But that's literally what they used it for.
That sounds exactly why Interpol exists.
Yeah. So
to stop assholes for doing exactly that.
So that's why we need space hotels, so we could host Pirate Bay in space.
Ah, gotcha. Fair enough. I thought the just constantly getting shut down and re-uploading was good enough.
But if it's in space, they can't shut you down, baby.
Yeah, but I don't think Pirates Bay is like in trouble or anything. I think they're doing exactly what they're built to do right now, just as well as they need to.
As we await T-0 in just under 20
yeah, but I think
teams are doing a series of system checks to make sure Dragon and Falcon 9 are.
Did you unplug your headphones or something?
And we're continuing to get live views inside the capsule with Bob and Doug.
I've played enough Roll20 to know what that sounds like.
Down there at the Cape.
Once we hit T0 and a successful launch occurs, we will
we're within half an hour now.
Make their ascent until the Falcon 9 first and second stage separates and
19 hours is going to take them to get to the fucking ISS, man. 19 hours are going to be in this tiny little pod.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, it takes me 12 hours to fly to Honolulu, so, you know.
Gradually raise its orbit to align more closely with the space
station. Here's my thing, man, is
19 hours is like from Singapore to like
Australia. It's 19 hours is Australia to New York.
Next Dragon will make
the longest
its approach
flight by the
actually
Dream,
dock with the space station. And this is a very different process from what we've seen with Dragon cargo deliveries in the past, which is a process called
I mean, you know, that's pretty cool to go to space and back for the same amount of time.
Can maneuver the station's robotic arm to capture the spacecraft. Docking on this version of Dragon can be done autonomously with no crew on.
So are they're gonna get off at the ISS and walk around and stuff?
Oh yeah, I think they're going to be up there for a while on the ISS.
Okay, gotcha.
Once captured, a spacecraft then gets attached to a common berthing mechanism.
Okay, so in the ISS, oh man, I wonder who else is on there. Do we know the astronauts on the ISS right now to greet them?
Yeah.
And the docking ports, which makes them perfect.
One of them is
what's
her name? She's really cool.
Dragon will spend up to 120 days docked before preparing to return home. Following successful completion of Dragon's test objectives in cargo loading operations, the crew will close the cabin, perform final system checks, and configure the vehicle for undocking. Once the automated undocking,
do you mind just tell us a little bit of background? Because I've never heard of any of these people.
Engines pushing it away from the space station.
Chris Cassidy is
and next up on the
he used to be part of the shuttle.
We're splashdown.
Right,
which is going to cover all the operations following that final departure maneuver. That's going to include events like the trunk separation, closing of the nose cone, a deorbit burn, and then
the one
eventually
guy
as they get into the atmosphere, the deployment of the drogue and the main parachutes, and all of that ends with splashdown right off the Florida coast. At that point, teams from SpaceX will move in with their recovery ship, grab the capsule out of the water, and work to get Bob and Doug out of Dragon after a successful mission in space. So we are 26 minutes away from launch. Fueling of Falcon 9 is continuing. Let's check in
a design engineer
down with the team at Kennedy. Murray.
All right.
Thanks, Dan. We are so pumped right now because things have
cleared up. He did a lot of
engineering. It looks like we might actually do this today.
Then
if you're just joining us, we are now 25 minutes, 46 seconds and counting from the first astronaut.
That's interesting. He wasn't military or anything like that.
From U.S. soil in 9 years.
Looks like he went purely through the engineering route.
Where more
this is his
first flight.
Space
than ever
before.
This is
his first flight.
And we want to share with you the results of a poll we asked earlier.
He's one of the younger Russian astronauts.
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to be like 85, man. My brother was born in 84.
The South Pole, where no one has been before, or the Apollo 11 landing site. And it was a pretty even split. We had 46% of you say you would go to the moon's south pole, and 54% of you would go to the Apollo 11 landing site. I kind of side with the Apollo 11 landing site because I'm a history buff and I want to see where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Lauren, which place would you go?
I'm with you on that one, and I would love to go see that flag there. And
he was he was a parachute instructor and a diving instructor.
Wow. You know, it's funny. Two of my best friends were a parachuter and a diver. I could not imagine combining both of those lifestyles together. That's a lot of risk all the time.
His first space mission was in 2012.
Maybe it wouldn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to learn more from going where we've never been before, so we need to go to the South Pole too.
Okay, so both of the Russians it's their first time to ISS.
Yeah, but this is his third space mission.
Monitoring all the action with less than 25 minutes to go to hear. I'm sure things are heating up.
When did Francesca leave? Because I guess she must have left real soon, and I just didn't notice.
Hey, Marie, I mean, you're completely right. Now that we have that go for launch, people are on the edge of their seat right now, waiting on this historic moment to take flight. As you can see, photos are still coming in of just everyone around the country showing their excitement for this launch. And it's really been a touching thing to see that everyone's kept this excitement going from Wednesday's first attempt. So we just took a look at numbers, and we are now over 3 million people tuning in for this historic launch. And so
3 million people, that's pretty impressive. It's hard to get 3 million people to watch anything.
This will be my own first time watching humans lift off to space from the United States, and it's just going to be a super emotional moment.
Wow,
for that,
lady, you're
Marie,
21?
Back to you at Kennedy for these last minutes before launch.
All right, thanks to Hira. And
I remember
Leland, we've got 23 minutes and some change to go. What do you think Bob and Doug are feeling right now?
I think, they're very
This dude has got some time, too, in the cockpit.
Pilots, but
yeah, I know him from his famous. I know him from his famous dog photo.
So,
okay,
that's that. But I mean, that's it. That's all I know is that he has dogs. He has golden retrievers.
And we're just inside 23 minutes now. So on Wednesday we were.
They made an anime character about him. This is anime called Space Brothers.
Today,
I partially recommend it and partially don't recommend it because it is very there's a lot of filler. It just repeats itself a lot, but it's super funny and cute. It's literally just about two brothers being astronauts. And they become astronauts. That's the show. It's really good.
Okay.
to be in meetings with them and to watch them train. I have to say, and to all of my friends who work with them every single day, the feedback is always just what
they are. Like golf commentators have to be the best sports commentators because it's inherently a very slow and paced sport, and like the scoring is agnostic, and it's you don't know who you're rooting for. Being a space launch commentator has got to be like even harder than being a golf commentator because you're actually commenting on nothing.
They're not accustomed.
Everyone's just waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they actually let people today. On Wednesday, they didn't let anyone in.
Yeah.
Today, there's 4 people.
All right, we're going to go straight over to Gary for an update from Houston. Gary?
I'm glad someone else jumped on my joke about them being
Marie,
2 dads.
The space station
I just heard them talking
here
about
is
being
focused.
dads.
All eyes are on the system checks that are happening across the board, and we're listening in as we close in on launch. And I can tell you that things are
it's
very
amazing.
good.
Like
Chris Cassidy will
the
be
same
watching
room,
from the International
right?
Space Station.
All you got to
right
do
now,
is just
flying
change
over
the desks
Pacific
up a little
Ocean.
bit.
It's
This is
heading
the same
cross
exact
right over the
room.
launch pad. We might even get some good news from the station.
And they just have more computers.
We'll have the launch there, the big screen up front,
and more space to walk around.
Members on their way to the International Space Station.
Yeah, because most of the space from last time was taken up by the computers.
And they had bigger and they had more binders and more papers and stuff.
History making with station operations, and we can't wait to see our team members Bob and Doug in low Earth orbit and heading to the International Space Station. That's it from us here in Mission Control Houston. I'll send it back over to the team in Hawthorne for the latest happening there. John.
That guy got a little media training.
30 seconds. We're continuing to count down.
This guy has been commentating for decades.
Oh, like this is that's his thing. He's like the liftoff commentator. Yeah. Oh my god, I love that. That's his career.
He got picked up by SpaceX a long time ago, and so he's been doing all the SpaceX commentating. But he used to do like a lot of shit for NASA too.
I mean, I can't imagine. It seems like a very niche field.
Yeah.
I'm surprised anyone could make a living off of it.
We did begin propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes. Fuel loading on the second
I guess all you have to do is be a rocket scientist.
It is complete. First stage fuel load is continuing, and right now that's a little more than, that's about 60% of the way full. So things are looking good.
What's the steam coming off? Is that from heat or vapor, or what is that?
It's just like oxygen and nitrate vapor coming off of it.
16 minutes and 30 seconds. The range right now is go, ready to support. Weather continues to be go. As we inch our way closer, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're waiting to hear if anybody calls out an issue, but for the moment, as you can see on the screen, it looks good. Now, on the Dragon side, the Dragon mission director and the team there are reporting no issues. They've done their communications checkouts. The crew access arm, as you can see, is retracted away from the spacecraft. The crew is strapped in, and they are ready to go. Now, final instructions will be going to the crew at T-minus 10 minutes. The crew displays will be configured for launch, and that setup will give astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley insight into how the launch is proceeding and provides constant updates on vehicle health. We've already heard the crew give...
there's this like little black line that's going across the top of the nose there.
Yeah, right here.
What does that signify?
That's the fairing cover for the docking port.
On the countdown net as we get close to zero and to lift.
What's a fairing cover?
But right now,
so the docking port's right there, right? That opens up.
Everything continues to be go for an on-time launch.
Basically, what you want to do is protect the docking port from the atmosphere as it's flying.
Things are great.
Thousands of miles through.
You, John,
so you cover it up with this little fairing. The cone also helps with the aerodynamics of the pod. But once you get to space, you got a dock, right? So you open that up, and then you go and you dock.
So we're continuing to count down. We are under 18 minutes away from liftoff. Again, it's an instantaneous liftoff it's going to be 12:22 and 45 seconds here on the West Coast, 3:22 and 45 seconds
He's
over
doing all
on
the
the
math.
East Coast there
I feel
in
you,
Florida.
my brother. I feel you.
Just a reminder, it's going to be about
doing math on live TV is always a mistake.
And Bob and Doug
the best you can be is right. And the worst you can be is so bad.
Engine cut off about 2.5 minutes into flight. After that, the second stage will take over and continue to power them the rest of the way. Second engine cutoff comes in just under 9 minutes at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds. Following that second stage completing its job, it'll continue to coast for about 3 minutes. It'll do a slight attitude adjustment and null out any rates, so make sure it's not in any kind of a spin before they do separation. So that's when the Dragon spacecraft will physically separate.
So they looking to, like, they're not looking to rifle it, right? They're looking to get like what type of flight path? Just like really nice and easy, like an arrow, or
yeah, like an arrow.
So that means
gotcha. So they just want to fly as straight as possible.
A number of burns or those firings of those Draco thrusters that they'll do over
Stage 2 locked load started.
The locks.
Is there any type of thing that we put into the air that we like to put spin on?
Again, they're going to be doing a series of burns on the way uphill towards the International Space
early
Station
sounding
5,
rockets that we would put a spin on because it was thought that it would keep it stable
until they get much closer. And
I mean, because I'm just thinking, I'm thinking like a football, right?
Yeah,
we are expecting that with an on-time launch
like the problem, the reason you can't really put a spin on crude, it's just the G-forces will pass out your pilots or make them sick.
All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We're under 16 minutes away. We have a special
what you will
guest
spin
joining
though,
us. I'm gonna toss
when
it
you do
over
start,
to Jesse.
you do actually spin when you get into space,
We
and
are
it's not to like
15
simulate
minutes and
gravity or
45
anything like
seconds
that.
from
You
liftoff
slowly
of
spin
our
it
second
so that the
demonstration
spaceship
mission
evenly
today, and we have
heats
the honor
across
of
the
having
entirety
SpaceX's
of
president and
the
COO,
thing
Gwen
because
Shotwell,
there's
join
no
us.
air
Thanks,
to cool
Gwen,
it
for
off,
coming out
right?
and taking a
So
few minutes to
everything
chat with
is
us.
heated by radiation, and
We know you've been
because
on
of the laws of
console.
radiation,
How's the countdown been
you
going so far in
you
there?
dissipate heat
Countdown
as
is
fast
clean
as you
today,
gain
just
heat
like it was
with
Wednesday.
radiation. So if you
We
slowly
did clear the weather
spin
hurdles
the capsule at a
sooner
constant rate,
than we did on Wednesday.
it will.
And the only thing
The
we're
second
watching
one
right
side
now
is
is
out of the
downrange
sun,
weather
it will
and
immediately
lightning
lose the
at
heat.
the
So if you
staging
spin it
location.
slow enough,
But we will clear that hurdle at
this
-7
sounds like a
minutes.
rotisserie chicken.
Great, very
yeah,
exciting.
it's the same exact concept, except for you're trying to lose as much heat as possible instead of gain as much heat as possible. So it's like, yeah, but it's the same concept. You gotta spin it.
Yeah. You want to evenly distribute the heat because you don't want to get overloaded.
Today I'm nervous again. Super nervous. Stomach and throat.
Understandable.
No, it's a fantastic,
and the reason
fantastic
why
day today. I'm really
ISS
excited.
doesn't
The team is pulled
spin
together. It's
is
such
because
a
we
professional
have these
operation.
massive
When I say
radiator
team, by the way, I mean
panels
SpaceX
that
and
handle
NASA.
all of the heating
These
distribution.
folks have been working
And
incredibly
because it also
hard and have
spends
done
45 minutes
a
in the sun
fantastic
and
job.
45 minutes
Yes, and we
outside
are
of the
all
sun.
so excited.
Or, wait,
and we know that you have to get back inside of Mission Control, but is there anything that you wanted to say before liftoff to NASA and SpaceX?
Well, I want to thank NASA, of course, for their generosity and their help with getting to this place. I want to thank all the SpaceXers who have come together to make this moment in history. And I want to thank Elon for hiring me.
Please don't murder me, Elon.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to
Elon is Walmart Tony Stark.
And Godspeed,
Walmart brand Tony Stark.
Well, we are so excited. We are just a few minutes away from countdown, so we are going to turn it over to Dan and John for the final minutes in terminal count. Take it away, John.
I mean,
he's a smart guy. He's
minus 13
I think
minutes,
he might be
30
on the
seconds,
spectrum,
continuing
but, you
to
know,
count down.
that's just me.
We're continuing to load.
I think he has problems with authority.
That should finish up in 6 minutes.
And that drives him.
Fuel is completely loaded on the second stage.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
And we are continuing to load liquid oxygen on both the first and second stage. The liquid oxygen load beginning on the second stage just about 3.5 minutes ago.
But I'll give it this. I do not think the man is lying to me.
Yeah,
I think you know. I definitely think that's who he is.
That gets us just like we do with liquid oxygen, the maximum amount into the storage volume, so that we can get the most performance out of the vehicle. Right now we are in a fairly quiet state on the vehicle. Ground pumps continuing to put the propellant in to first and second stages. Next significant issue, call-outs that we're going to hear will probably be inside the T-minus 10 minutes when they talk to the crew. We'll listen for that.
That also drives me crazy at airports too. You know how the they have those little tunnels that lead out into the plane before you get on? Is that those things aren't parallel to the ground? Like they have like an angle to them, and when you just see it like all over an airport and they're at different angles too. Oh man, that just drives me crazy.
It's because airplanes have different heights, man.
No, I understand the functionality is important, but like just like looking at it, it just pisses me off.
Whole way uphill. Some of the calls that you'll be hearing, as there will be what we call performance calls over the Dragon to ground the entire way uphill, and you'll just hear some of the SpaceX engineers calling out trajectories and booster performance. So we're always looking for that word nominal. I know that's one of John's favorite words. Nominal. That's one of mine too. Nominal. I want to hear nominal as much as possible.
Nominal. He's got an accent too. I can't place it though.
Number and letter combinations, and those correspond to the different
combinations. No, I think that's like Virginia.
Their flight uphill.
Nah.
There's 1A and 1B, which signify that they're on the first stage. Those carry them from there in the Cape all the way up to.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was like from Connecticut or like Massachusetts.
2A through 2E or 2 Echo.
I don't know if he's from
the
New
England
States.
That will be on the second stage, and that goes from North Carolina.
Well, he just over enunciates everything.
The tip of Newfoundland. So in the northern Atlantic,
Newfoundland. Hey Huey, ever notice when white people talk, they say the whole word.
Something similar to forward to Shannon, and that just refers to Shannon, Ireland, which they'll be going off the coast of Ireland. The later
okay, so they're heading
if they have to abort.
I guess
so
with the against the rotation of the Earth.
Hopefully going to hear that word nominal a whole lot.
If they're heading towards Ireland, right?
10.5 minutes.
Then they're heading east. Yeah. So they're going against the rotation of the Earth. I wonder why.
Just to confirm that their displays are in order. The crew is already strapped in and reported that they are go for launch.
Okay, they're going with the rotation of the Earth. I wonder why.
It gives them extra speed.
The Falcon 9 vehicle until fueling cuts off.
Gotcha.
Just about 2
minutes prior. I'm not even joking. Like
no, I mean that makes sense. That's how the theory of relativity works. But what would it take to launch against the Earth, and what effect would you get if you tried to do it? Would you get like a standing still?
You would get less speed.
To help you get ready for today's historic mission.
Yeah, but what if I wanted to position something like over a certain spot on Earth? I guess you would just launch it into orbit and do it that way.
You just you go to.
Thanks, Jay.
You definitely launch with the rotation counterclockwise when looking north up, and you just burn high enough, and then you wait until you're where you want to be, and then you counter burn, and then that will stabilize your orbit at geosynchronicity.
SpaceX core.
So that's how they do it.
Going to be talking to Bob and Doug throughout their
and then how do you make
By
sure
the way, geostationary orbit height is 35 kilometers, just so you know. 35,000 kilometers. And some change.
But so it's a very specific frequency?
Yeah, it's a very specific altitude above the Earth.
So that means that there's a lot less of it than we think that there is.
I mean, at that altitude, like at 35,000 kilometers, like there's so much space. I mean, you could shove. So I mean, it's a band, right? It's like a giant orbit of that, and you're going to be constantly going at relatively the same velocity, right? So you could put a lot. I mean, you could
you'd have to. Well, I mean, let's not jump through assume everything. Like, I don't think every single country and every single private organization is going to be able to synchronize all of their velocities in a nice harmonic pattern in one specific band. Like
it's literally like you could have something at 36 or 37,000 and it would still be fine. Like you could just adjust it every once in a while. You could have something at like 33 and still adjust it at a little while, right? You could have something at like 335, 782 and have another thing at like 335. 783, and those things would never ever touch because they're a kilometer apart. So it's like there's so much room. You could put a lot of stuff in geosecret orbit, like a lot of stuff. So it's a big band.
Okay. But yeah, I'm just thinking that, you know, as we continue to do it, and as we continue to not, you know, really consult each other as we do it, it just seems inevitable, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, and really, there's not. So like, geostationary, like, it doesn't help much. All it's good for is observing one specific spot on Earth. That's all it's really good for. So.
Stage 1 and Stage 2.
You kind of want things a little closer in terms of like communication satellites and stuff. So hypothetically, I mean, they do use geostationary for specific uplinks, right? So you can use it for a specific uplink that you always want to be connected, but that specific station generally will bounce to other satellites that are closer in orbit before it bounces back down to Earth. So you kind of want things closer. And the closer you get, the less room you get, right? And that's why, like, a lot of people are mad at Starlink, is because there's so many of them, and they're so low, they're just, like, blotting out the sky. And it's really annoying.
Yeah, and also, you know, like, because the Earth is a sphere, right, it will, you know, quadratically increase in, you know, circumference as you get that band wider and wider. So if you have a bunch of low-hanging satellites, they're actually working with less space than the high-flying satellites would be.
That call-out indicates that the fuel loading on the first stage is complete.
All right, 5 minutes.
Back the lines now. So first stage and second stage fuel are complete. Liquid oxygen loading is continuing on both stages. You can see on
so they're just breathing atmospheric oxygen right now?
No. The liquid oxygen used in the rocket is used to ignite the engines. So there's no intake. So in a jet turbine engine on a plane, you have the intake, the suck-in oxygen from around. In a rocket ship, there's none of that. So you have to take your own oxygen into space to have the combustion reaction.
Oxidizer on the first stage ticking up towards
gotcha, but it's the catalyst for the...
Yeah, they have to take their own oxygen in order to perpetuate the fire that is the rocket.
And then we will go for launch.
So that's what it is. And then they also add, it's called T3 or something like that, and that's like igniter fluid. So you'll see a little bit of a purple burn. That is the lighter fluid they use to make their nitrogen and their oxygen
around the second stage.
Gotcha. That's the pilot light, if you would.
Yeah. Yeah, they use a chemical reaction to ignite it.
We'll move back about 2
degrees.
Okay,
so not combustion as we know it.
The strong back will then recline about 45 degrees away.
So this big thing right here, that's the strong back.
Stage 2.
So it's going to move 2 degrees. And then when it launches, it just goes out of the
way. Yeah, that's basically just it's like a crossbow bolt, right? And that's the crossbow.
Yeah. What a great design to put the oh shit bar right here.
We are just 4 minutes away from liftoff.
So I've sat before a roller coaster went off before. I think that's pretty much the same as what those guys are going through right now, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much
directly into Dragon and the Falcon 9. They're able to see where their fuel loading
just times a billion.
Progressing down with the count.
AFTS final setup started.
Final setup is starting. So those are the engines. You're gonna start turning them on.
3.5 minutes from launch.
So basically the rocket's coming online now.
And the strong back is now reclining away from the Falcon 9.
That's got to be so exhilarating when you're going up. I could not imagine having control of my, like my adrenaline. How do you just not go, woohoo?
I'll go bleed.
Yeah, it's going to move 2 degrees back.
Dragon has transitioned to terminal count and is on internal power.
All right, it's on internal power.
Stage 1, LOX load, close out.
GPU's off. Now the rocket itself is counting down.
2 minutes, 42
gotcha.
seconds.
So now all the extraneous stuff that's not going up into space are going to move back. Yeah.
For about another half a minute or so.
It's going to keep
Once
filling
we get
up though.
The completion of stage 2 LOX loading, we have to vent down the line, so you'll see another large white cloud coming off of the strongback. That'll be normal. That'll happen around
transitioning to
T-minus 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Okay.
We're going on internal power now.
Just a few seconds away from the Stage 2 LOX load being complete. It's been almost 9 years since we've been in this position. A lot of work done by thousands of people to get to this point. All our eyes focused on 2 now.
My computer's been real dumb lately about that.
What's this water?
Stage 2
it's from they're spraying the entire pad.
To keep it from igniting or something?
Yeah.
Stage 2 LOX load complete. All fuel, all oxidizer on Falcon 9. 1 minute 34 seconds to go till launch.
So it's fully loaded. It's ready to go.
Prime gas closeouts is starting.
What? No, Keith, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was just watching on Discord, and it blacked out, and I was like, what? No, it's 1 minute left. How could you?
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed for launch.
Armed for launch. Oh, you can hear everyone
Under a minute
freaking out
now,
in
the
room.
FTS, the flight termination system, has been armed.
Go for launch. Go for launch.
Let's light this candle is how that guy decided to stamp his trademark.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna that line's gonna get played a lot.
Hand me the tablet.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds.
15.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA. Go SpaceX. Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. It's so rising a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream. 20 seconds into flight, Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Max Q, that is the maximum pressure that the atmosphere will put on it.
Gotcha. So that's like a big danger point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Falcon power telemetry nominal.
M1D throttle down.
We're throttling down to get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Yeah, you don't want to fight the atmosphere as you go up.
Bucket.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, like water, you can go too fast.
Say all systems are go.
Yeah, the air. Yep, it's a fluid.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Supersonic, man.
We've exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9.
Okay.
1 minute.
M1D
took it 1
throttle
minute.
up.
Took a supersonic. Now they throttle all the way up.
Back up to full power as we're through the max Q.
Because we're going to go through.
1 Bravo.
Thinner
it's
air.
just going to get less. Yeah, the pressure's just going to get less.
We heard
and less.
that 1 Bravo call out. That's just the second abort zone that they're in. They'll continue to be on this until the first stage has done its job and they switch over to the second. At this point, Bob and Doug pulling about 2.3 Gs, 2.3 times the Earth's gravity, already moving at over 1,500 miles per hour.
We've heard the call out for MVAC engine chill. That's getting the MVAC engine ready to light. That'll come at about 2:44 into flight.
MECO
right
is
now,
main
everything
engine cut
continuing
off.
to look good.
So
that's when we start drifting.
Is going to be the triple. We'll have main engine cutoff of the 9 first stage engines, stage separation, and then ignition of the second stage engine to continue to carry astronauts into orbit.
What an amazing camera. Good job, camera.
Yeah. I was going to say I was a little disappointed with the resolution, but the tracking has been perfect.
It's already, you can't see that.
Yeah, of course.
It's so high up.
Throttling down the Merlin engines on the first stage.
And there's Miko.
And we have Miko.
Miko.
2 Alpha.
Okay.
Stage separation confirmed.
There goes second step.
There it goes.
Copy 2 Alpha. MVAC ignition.
All right, we have stage separation confirmed. The first stage beginning its flight back. The second stage being powered by that single Merlin 1D vacuum engine has ignited and is now carrying Bob and Doug into orbit. So they're going to continue under the power of this second stage.
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
I love that their names are Bob and Doug. What
they're the
freaking
so
everyman names.
They're so dads. It's great.
A little over 5 minutes to go still on this second
How many
stage.
puns per minute do you think they can
Alpha,
go?
So they're now in the longest abort zone. Them all the way from about
holy shit, they're going. They're gonna go 8,000 miles or kilometers per hour.
Good, though,
holy shit!
They got to go 23.
Yeah.
On that second stage.
But I mean,
make their way
it's
into
crazy. It's very fast.
Yeah.
Dragon SpaceX nominal trajectory.
Acquisition of signal in Bermuda.
SpaceX Dragon nominal trajectory.
Man, their spacesuit is so goofy, though.
I mean, come on, it's hard to get goofier than the OGs. Like, I mean, it's a step forward.
Yeah. It's like, but it's a really cool, like Calvar nylon composite. It's like really fancy fiber. I was watching a video on it last night.
So is that stuff good enough to go in a spacewalk with?
No.
Okay. So this is what you wear when you're inside?
Yeah, they wear this. This is not for space. If something goes wrong in atmosphere and there's a fire or something, at least
they don't burn up. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. It's like it's closer to something like what a firefighter would wear.
Yeah, it is. So it is pressurized like a flight suit, so they can handle 8 to 9 Gs, you know, and stay conscious for more than 30
already
seconds.
Almost 200 miles downrange.
But it's definitely not pressurized.
Nominal trajectory.
You would die.
Continuing.
And so then this is on the other side over here. This is the first stage. So then you can see they're counting down for the entry burn. So this is going to come back, and so it doesn't blow up and burn in the atmosphere.
While they continue uphill, looks like we are getting a view of the first stage as well.
Yep, on your right screen, you can see that first stage with the grid fins deployed. It's making its way back to attempt to land on our drone ship, of course.
Okay, yeah. So this is the shuttle is kind of half the battle. The rocket is also very interesting,
entry burn, and that's where 3 of the 9 Merlin engines do ignite to help slow the vehicle down as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere.
So this idea is just like a giant ass parachute.
The landing burn, which is just a single engine.
Okay. Like, you know, don't fly out of control, land somewhere where we can catch you, and
they are
giant
still
parachute.
on a nominal trajectory on Dragon. Still on second stage. And
so I guess the real test is when they send this thing up for the second time.
Screen.
The real test is when they try to land this capsule. Like the Falcon 9 rocket, this is what, their third one? There's 3 in operation. This Falcon 9 rocket has done multiple missions. This isn't its first time in space, and this won't be its first time landing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that's proven. It's this capsule that is.
The Dragon crew is unproven. I'm glad that the rocket didn't blow up, and I'm glad that they're on their way. But the real, again, I bring it up all the time, the hardest part is re-entry. Like, that is the hardest part. Almost all of the cosmonauts that have died in the great legacy of space travel, they all died in re-entry. Our 2 space shuttles re-entry, you know, so it's like
continuing to check in with Bob and
that's
Doug.
where we really got to hold
they
our breath.
Are on a nominal trajectory. Just about 10 seconds away from that first stage, starting that entry burn on your right screen.
Getting to space is kind of easy. Hey, Victor, what's up? Getting to space is easy. You know, coming back from space is hard.
As one would imagine, right?
Is that entry burn beginning?
Oh man, I got a broken foot because going up the stairs is easy and coming down the stairs sometimes is hard.
Yeah. Even like horses have like a trouble going downhill. Like horses 100% prefer running uphill than coming downhill. It's like coming down is hard.
Continues. We're just about a minute.
Well, you're fighting against gravity in a different way.
In rapid succession. It'll be the second engine cut off. We'll be looking for that stage 1 landing burn shortly after.
So they will you'll see the
just
vector engine
a few seconds of each other.
It will kind of spin itself a lot.
Such a cool view on your left screen, seeing Bob and Doug on Dragon.
Look at them screens, man.
Right now you can see
so there's no like canopy or anything. They're really just in their little. They're in their own little world.
There's 6 windows. There's 2 to the left and right of them, and then there's 1 right above them. But they're like tiny little double windows, like 2 small circles. You can kind of see them sometimes from the external shots.
Bob and Doug are experiencing their highest G-force. We're seeing the counter tick up to right about 1.8.
Copy, Shannon.
You heard Shannon, so that just means they're in their final abort zones. If they were to abort at this point, it would either be an abort to orbit or to land off the coast of Ireland. Standing by for second
stage cut.
MVAC throttle step. MVAC shut down. Stage 1 landing line.
So how long is this?
Confirmation of SECO's second engine cutoff.
Wherever SpaceX is. So
now we are waiting for our first stage to.
How long is the mission expected to take?
19 hours because they got to go dock.
Gotcha.
I'm not gonna live stream the whole 19 hours.
Okay. When's the last point of general interest other than they're slowly gliding through space?
Technically, they're slowly gliding through space. I guess we're going to watch the landing, right? Of the rocket. There it is. It landed.
And there you can see on your screen, Falcon 9 has landed.
Let's see if it falls over like Falcon 9. Five fell over into the ocean.
It tipped over at the very end, right, or something like that.
Yeah. And as you can see on your right screen, Bob and Doug are still making their way.
There's the dead fist bump.
Well, I mean, they're like, hey, no one on Earth, or no one in the human race is doing what we're doing right the fuck now.
So they are in orbit. They are gliding right now. Like the second engine's off. They're floating.
Falcon 9 and Dragon right
so
now
is this deploy coming up?
They got to deploy the solar rays.
12 minutes when Dragon will separate.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can now.
Good. God damn, that took fucking forever. But good. I've been watching since the T-minus.
I heard you once, and then you died again.
And before
you came in crackling, but and like we said hi to you, and just kind of never.
And then I couldn't hear you guys. Like I had to fuck around. I didn't fuck with any of my settings since last night. I come up and it's all like, hey, the
latitude maneuver using cold
gas.
I guess because my PlayStation
Well, yeah, they're not accelerating anymore, so there's
we
no
do
G-force
expect
put
that
onto them.
separation to occur in about a minute
all they feel
from now,
is the force of gravity, which is probably
they
like
do wait until they have full confirmation that it is ready to separate.
I can't tell you the gravity of 200 kilometers. I just don't know.
Such cool views. I cannot get over this view that we're seeing right now.
But that's math.
Bob and Doug on the right screen, inside of Crew Dragon, out in space.
Yeah, already 200 kilometers over planet Earth, or a little over 124 miles.
They're going to have to do another burn
traveling
to
in excess
equalize their orbit out, but that will happen.
27,000 meters per second, or about 16,000 miles per hour.
You're choppy.
Yeah, you're not really coming in all that great.
Again, we're just standing by. That separation that should be coming up shortly.
Yeah,
and they'll begin a series of checks on the Draco thrusters that
are
going to be used to maneuver and then power Dragon on its flight to the international space.
Did you say Coochie Weasel?
Standing by.
They're playing League of Legends, is what he's trying to say.
Okay.
It sounds like we had an expected LOS loss of signal with one of the ground stations. Waiting for confirmation now of that.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon separation confirmed.
There is a great view right in front of you of Dragon separating. And there's that call out. Dragon is now officially making its way to the International Space Station today.
All right, so now it's just this is when they start serving in-flight beverages.
We have a few words for you from our Falcon.
Yeah, this is when they would unbuckle and move about the cabin.
Standing by.
Dragon, Chief Engineer on Dragon to ground. Bob Doug, on behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying with Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
You know this guy stood up all week trying to be like, what am I going to say?
Human ride for Falcon 9, and it was incredible. Appreciate all the hard work, and thanks for the great ride to space.
That's the whole point.
Copy all.
And Mike, proud of you guys and the rest of the team.
People out there.
Thank you so much
Space
for what you've done for us today, putting America back into low Earth orbit from the Florida coast.
Copy all. Good luck. Godspeed.
Little foot straps.
All right, so Bob and Doug are in
Dragon
space.
SpaceX, we confirm nominal ECLS activation and service section Draco checkouts. Nose cone deploys in progress.
Nose cone, yep. So they're going to open up that little nose cone.
Copy all. We're monitoring.
The Corps here in Hawthorne giving the crew a heads up.
Why wouldn't they do that when they get closer to their target?
Deploying, so again, that nose cone is going to open up.
There's really no reason to keep it covered.
Goes up to
and you might as well make sure
degrees,
it opens now.
And that's going to expose
why you have 19 hours
the actual
to solve
docking
the
ring and the hatch that they're going to be going through once they attach to the International Space Station. And also 4 of those Draco thrusters, we call them the forward bulkhead thrusters, that are going to be used for these major phase burns or firings of those thrusters to actually raise their orbit gradually over the coming hours. Also heard good activation of the ECLS, that's the Environmental Control and Life Support System. That's everything controlling their atmosphere. Just keeping
broken into
nice,
the White House yet?
Environment where they're going to be living for the next 19 hours until they arrive at the space station.
I actually live like 4 blocks away from the White House.
Yeah, like I woke up and read about it this
Crew Dragon's job
at the time that I passed out.
See, Bob and Doug are still inside Crew Dragon, making their way.
Atlanta has to burn
19-hour trip
first,
to
and
the
then
International
DC
Space
will wake
Station
up.
before they dock tomorrow morning.
One of my buddies right now is live streaming from South Carolina.
Such cool
He's at a
views.
protest.
I love that we can get these live views here and see and watch what they're doing now that they are in orbit.
Yeah, it's incredible to just be looking over their shoulder, to be along for the ride. And we're going to be with them, and we're going to be with all of you the entire way.
These poor broadcasters.
Space station. We're going to be
Oh, they have a 19-hour stream in front of them?
We'll obviously have a sleep
Oh my
period.
god, they're not even like
8 hours of
playing
sleep
Magic or
later
anything.
today.
How are you going to entertain us for 19 hours?
No, look, this
One
dude
of the
is
major
totally
things we
working
are
on his
looking
deck.
forward to
Look
in
at
the
him.
next couple of hours is their first turn at the controls. So they're actually going to be using those touchscreen displays to take control and
I don't know,
manually
man.
pilot Dragon.
With all the money that this takes, I bet you there's a lot of people being like, I don't know. I think their boss is in the room with them, if you know what I mean.
Dragon, looking over their shoulder as they manipulate the
These
controls
part
at
of the mission
display.
is they're going to be like
we had
testing out the
a
manual
smooth
control
ride
systems
uphill
too.
both
So
stages
these
of the
Bob and Doug are
Falcon
just going to
9
be like
doing their job, placing
just going
Bob
on
and
a
Doug in
free
orbit.
joy ride with this
I mean,
thing too.
this is a day.
So,
Because they don't have to pilot it; it's piloted from the ground.
Kicking off that new era of space flight.
It's piloted by the
that we've all been
computer,
talking
so they
about
plug in
and
all the
longing
numbers,
for
and then
since the space shuttle
it does the
program
thing.
came to an
And
end
then
in
the reason why
2011.
you have the ground tells them, okay, here's
And
the numbers that we crunched, put them in.
Yes.
But
Second
like,
time's a charm.
they don't want to trust the delay, especially because you already have
All right,
a pilot
so
in the loop.
day for
Why
the
would you
history
trust the delay?
books.
Like
As
you
you
see,
can
it's
see,
constantly
we have
dropping
lost some
signals from
live
the ground
signal
station.
there,
So
but the mission's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
continues,
If the
and we're
camera
going to send
feeds
it
are
over
any
to
indication.
KSC, to continue broadcasting live with you.
That'll be an interesting development if we ever get around to getting be able to have a more constant, reliable feed as things go away.
I was like, man,
yeah, I
we'll be
mean
back
that's the
here
whole
on
idea
Sunday,
behind
but
Starlink.
We did
like,
it, and the room
a
cleared out,
constant,
everybody was
non-ending,
outside watching,
unbreaking satellite
inside,
connection
the lights were shaking,
sphere.
the cameras were shaking. Lauren came back in with tears in her eyes. This is really amazing.
I can't believe it. I saw it with my own eyes.
That was, I have to admit, is pretty exhilarating to watch when they're taking off there.
Them up there, and there's a lot more. To go, but I'm so happy they're safe right now.
Too bad we don't get to feel the noise.
Yeah. Leland, you were talking about it. It's amazing what we can do when we work together.
Yes, American astronauts on an American rocket from American soil, showing you what Americans can do when we come together as a team and blast Doug and Bob off to the cosmos.
I love how
this is
much,
what it's all about.
Like every single astronaut is such a nerd, and I love it.
To stay safely.
You know what I love is that the training it takes to become an astronaut will weed out everyone because it just takes so damn long.
Yeah,
like you.
It takes 4 years.
Really, just got to be. You just got to be about it, man. Like there's no.
There's some cool. I know some cool secret like techniques they do nowadays, where like they'll because everyone knows about like the isolation room, right? But like what they don't tell you is that like they'll isolate you with 4 people, and then like force you to decide which one of those 4 people should be the astronaut. And like after you spend 6 days with only 4 people, you like go, okay, wait, I don't want to be the astronaut. I'm gonna make that guy the astronaut instead. Like, there's some crazy techniques they do.
Well, I mean, it's also just like, like you have to be brilliant, physically fit. Disease has to be something that you've never contended with, and you have to be inherently cooperative.
Yeah. No, yeah, you have
like,
to.
Yeah, you really got to be an exceptional type of person.
Like that's I think that's really the key difference between like. That third part, the cooperative, that's the most important part of being an astronaut, is the fact that you can just entirely let go of your ego and entrust your entire life to a bunch of nerds behind a computer. You know what I mean? Like that, like you have to just 100% be willing to be part of a group.
One of the things the president did right out of the
and most of the time when you're getting involved, it is only because there is a crisis.
As chairman of the National Space Council,
so that you got to be cool under pressure too.
The Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Transportation, the Secretary of Education.
No matter how old you are, it's never too late. You could still apply as long as you have an engineering degree or some sort of STEM degree or tons of years of experience in the industry. At any point in time, anyone can just join, and you yourself can go through the grueling process of astronaut selection. It is never too late to become an astronaut. There is no age cutoff, so
who have been
good luck
in supporting this program.
Yeah.
For a long time now.
I mean,
I'm breathing.
The problem is that the opposite of that message is don't hope for anything except your place, grovel. So so I prefer the unrealistic over the should never be realistic.
When that happens, so it's a bit of a relief. The nose cone is now open. It's now deployed, which means that now we're going to go into some burns. We're going to have some phasing burns. We're going to have some boosting burns, and we're going to get as much as we can in alignment with the International Space Station as early as possible here. But also, I know it's hard.
So, what is NASA's role other than letting them do this?
NASA's almost in charge of the entire, NASA's now in charge, 100% in charge. So the launch was all SpaceX, right? Because that's their vehicle. Now that they're going to go and rendezvous with the ISS, it's now NASA's responsibility to make sure that this mission continues safely.
Gotcha. But are the astronauts government actors at this point then? Or are
they're NASA astronauts?
Okay, they're NASA astronauts. Okay, I didn't know.
They're NASA astronauts being loaned out to SpaceX, who is loaning out a SpaceX rocket to NASA.
Gotcha.
This is such a joint. It's a joint mission. Like this is government and the private sector 100% working together.
Look, I'm going to be accountable. Potentially, I'm going to be accountable to the initiatives that I put forward. And does
SpaceX have plans on having private astronauts?
And we're so grateful for it.
Probably. I don't know.
How did he react?
It's probably cheaper for SpaceX to not hire on additional highly trained employees and to just rent out their vehicles.
On American rockets from American soil. And of course, I was like,
you know,
in my head, I'm thinking we better get after this. Of course, we've worked overtime to make it happen. We lost
our chief of staff because of it,
but we got it done, and we got it done. Safely.
One of the theories, one of the major concurrent theories behind why the NASA chief of staff quit was because of when they were planning out for the buying rockets and trying to get this quick initiative done as fast as possible. He illegally helped companies try and make the best rocket possible by inferring and giving data. So he quit and resigned before that could come into light to ruin the entire program.
And they are our team. They are America's
basically
team.
The guy had to sacrifice his career to make sure that this mission stayed affordable and on time
in its purest form.
because of dumb bureaucratical anti-monopoly laws,
we've got the coronavirus
which are important. Don't get me wrong, but still, the monolithic.
But I hope this moment in time
well, I mean, I'm gonna build rockets like no one has ever built before. It's a very niche industry, so it's kind of easy to monopolize it.
And if this can inspire a young child to become the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos or the next Sir Richard Branson, then
stop worshiping rich people because they're rich.
Jim Bridenstine.
No, the message. I understand the message.
Well, we appreciate your leadership.
Get money to make rockets.
Yeah, get money. Make sure you're using it to build rockets. There you go.
Humans to space.
We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Doug and Bob are on course to arrive at the International Space Station tomorrow, May 31st at 10:27 a.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be staying on the air for continuous live coverage along.
19 hours is very easy to plan around.
7 a.m. I can wake up at 7 a.m. I'll be there for the docking.
The next phases of the
okay, cool. I'll be there too. I'm gonna actually now's a pretty good time to sign off. I'm starving, but thanks for streaming, dude.
Yeah,
that's right. And as you follow along, we invite you to tune into a post-launch news conference that's happening here at 6:30 this evening Eastern Time on NASA TV. We'll have NASA and SpaceX leaders here to take questions live on this unprecedented achievement in human spaceflight.
I don't really care about the talking heads anymore.
You can follow along always on Twitter
at
NASA and NASA.gov for mission updates as it progresses. Here now are highlights from the mission so far. May 30th, 2020. Remember this day. You'll have this memory forever.
Yeah, Leon with the first. Leland is the best.
From U.S. soil.
He makes me smile. All right, that's the launch. Everything else is just fluff. Thanks everyone for joining me. All 12 of you. That's a lot. I'll probably be streaming again tomorrow. Oh, I will. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. I will wake up. And I'll be here to stream this. Later tonight, I might play some video games. I don't know. I'll let you know. Monday, we'll go and play more Space Program. Thanks for joining me on the stream.